The first thing you do when applying for a job is to write either an application letter or a cover letter. This discussion will help you decide on which letter is appropriate for the job position that you are applying for and how to write these letters. Let us differentiate an application letter and a cover letter. There are subtle differences between application letters and cover letters. An application letter is often intended to stand on its own, whereas a cover letter generally can't be the applicant's only document submitted to express interest in a job opening. Basically, a job application letter, as what I've said, is a standalone document submitted to your potential employer to express your interest in an open position. This letter should highlight your achievements, your skills, so that you can get the attention of the hiring manager and get hired for that specific job. So, when you are writing an application letter for a job, you should follow these steps to make sure that you include information about yourself and your professional experiences that will appeal to the hiring manager. The first thing you do is review information about the company and the position. You use professional format and create the heading. Right after you address the letter to the hiring manager, open the letter by describing your interests. Outline your experiences and qualifications, include aspects of your personality, express appreciation to the hiring manager, and you finally get to close the letter. So, as promised, I will be teaching you how to write these specific letters. The first thing you do is review information about the company and the position. It's best to write a new application letter for each position that you are applying for so you can include pertinent details about you and show your interest in a particular open role. Spend some time reviewing the company information, which you can likely find on their website as well as the position listings. You compare your qualifications and experiences with a list of skills in that specific posting, and you might want to think about specific experiences that have prepared you for that specific role, such as leading a team or maybe managing a major event. If in case that you find your qualifications do not fit that specific job listing, then probably you can look for another job or you can find a better position that fits your qualifications well. The next thing that you have to keep in mind is to use professional format. When writing an application letter, it should be more professional than a thank you card or an email to a coworker. The alignment of the document should include single spacing. It has to have 1 inch margins on the top, the bottom, and on the sides. And everything has to be left aligned. It is called the block format in writing a letter. It's best to use professional and traditional fonts such as Times New Roman, Arial, or depending on what you like, but never use Comic Sans or Chiller when writing an application letter. It should range from 10 to 12 points, and you have to try to keep your job application letter to 1 page. When creating your heading, you have to use a formal business heading for your application letter. It should include your name, your contact information, the date, and the company name and the address. If you send your application letter via email, you can eliminate your name and your contact information from the header and put it at the bottom of the email after the signature instead. Here is an example of how you are going to write your header. So you begin with your name, you write your physical address, your phone number, and then your email address. Right after, you include a single space and then write the date, the name of the hiring manager or the supervisor, the title of the hiring manager or the supervisor, and then the company name and the company's physical address. Of course, you can find all of these information in the job listing or probably in the website of the company that you're applying for. After writing your header, you start addressing the letter to the hiring manager. In your research, you may try to find the name of the person reviewing the applications for the job, and you address the letter to this person with a common business greeting such as Dear Mr. or Miss, to whom it may concern, or Dear Hiring Manager. Whom it may concern is actually quite outdated, and the more modern counterpart of this would be Dear Hiring Manager. Preferably, you should use Dear Hiring Manager than just merely saying to whom it may concern. Next is to start your letter by describing your interest. So in your first paragraph, you mentioned that what is the job title that you are applying for and where you saw the position posting. You can include your interest in the role and then briefly state the main experience or qualification that you have that makes you a good fit for this specific position. This section will draw in the hiring manager as the reader of your application letter, so it's important to appeal to that person quickly and succinctly. Here is an example. On the first paragraph, as what I've said, you will be stating what specific role you're applying for, in this case, marketing intern. And then where you found the job posting. In this case, it's the university's online job board. How interested are you in that specific role? As stated in this example, it is said, I am very interested in the role. What is your main experience or qualification that makes you a good fit? In this case, it is stated that I am in my final year of earning my bachelor's degree in marketing with a minor in communications. So I feel my educational experience has prepared me to work in a fast-paced marketing department like the one within your organization. Next is to outline your experiences and your qualifications. These few paragraphs should highlight your experiences, your qualifications, and your skills in such a way that it is fit with the company's goals and missions. For example, you are applying for a job in a nonprofit organization that provides educational opportunities to underserved community members. So you could talk about your previous experiences that makes you a good fit for that specific job. Since a job application letter should stand on its own without a resume, it's helpful that you include details of your experiences that relate to the position which you are applying. As you are writing your job application letter, you can consider how you can incorporate aspects of your personality. A friendly and engaging letter is likely to appeal to the reader, especially when they can get an idea of how well you might fit in with a team. So, for this example, in the situation mentioned above, you can explain in your letter that you're good in connecting with children, or how good you're connecting with people, how you value community spirit. So, these aspects of your personality can be included in your application letter. Then, before closing the letter, you express your appreciation for the hiring manager. Even if it's their job to read application letters, it's a more polite and professional way of ending your application letter. You thank the hiring manager for taking time out of their busy day to read what you have written. Of course, it is not just your application letter that they will be reading for the entire day. Here is an example. I appreciate the time that you have taken to review my application letter. Since you've likely received a number of application letters for this position, I am extremely grateful for the time that you have spent reading about me and what would make me a good fit for this role. Then that's it. You finally get to close your application letter. Many people use sincerely or best to close the letter, although any professional sign off is fine to include. The final line of the letter should be your full name. If you submit a hard copy of your letter, you include your signature above your typed name. But when submitting an application letter via email, you should include your contact information beneath your name rather than including it in the header. The format of your job application letter will depend on how you're sending it to the hiring manager or the supervisor. If you plan to email the application letter, then the formatting will differ from the printed mailed letter. Your contact information, as I've said, should be at the bottom of an email beneath your typed full name. And then always remember that the subject is very important because the subject lines Tell the hiring manager directly what is this email all about. The best subject lines are professional, polite, relevant, and concise. When scanning their inbox, the hiring manager will see the subject line that you included along with your name and your email address, and then the decision to read or delete an email ultimately depends on what subject line you choose, which means it is your chance to make your first impression. So, what is a cover letter on the other hand? A cover letter is a one-page document also that you send to your employers with your resume to apply for the job. A cover letter's format is usually three paragraphs long and it includes information why you like to apply for that specific position, your professional background, and what makes you uniquely qualified for that specific job. So, how do you write your cover letter? You make a positive impression by addressing the cover letter to the right person. An appropriate salutation is specific and it sets the tone for the rest of your cover letter. It demonstrates your attention to detail, which makes your application letter to stand out. When you know the hiring manager's name, you can establish a personal connection by addressing the hiring manager's name directly. Using the word dear is the safest way to address the hiring manager, even if you know their gender. Using dear, for example, Dear Robin Lopez or Dear Jane Cruz is the safest option. If you are certain of their gender and you want to use a specific title, you can use Mr. for addressing a male and Miss for addressing a female. But if in case you are not sure of the marital status of that person, avoid using Mrs. when addressing a woman, except if they personally told you that, hey, I would like to be addressed as Mrs. in your application letter or your cover letter. But of course, those cases are very rare. That is why you just use Mr. or Miss, but never use Mrs. if you don't know the marital status of the hiring manager. Here are examples. Dear Miss Salvador or Dear Mr. Tan. You avoid greetings like Hi Mr. Tan or Hey Mr. Tan because these are too casual and it is not appropriate when writing cover letters or application letters. When your contact person has an academic or professional title, of course, these titles are hard earned. That is why you include that academic or professional title because it is considered to be more respectful to address them as doctor and then their last name instead of just saying Miss and then their last name. You can also include other professional titles like professor, reverend, or sergeant, depending on the academic or professional title of the hiring manager or the one that you're writing your letter to. When you don't have a contact name, what should you do? Of course, it is very important that you research about the position and the company that you are applying for. So, for you to find the hiring manager's name, you should refer to the job listing carefully. You should search for the hiring manager's name, probably in the job listing or in the website, or you can conduct targeted Google search. If you still can find the hiring manager's name, you could try calling the company or emailing the company, explain that you're applying for a job and you would like to address your letter to the correct person. But if you still can't find the hiring manager's name, despite of all the efforts that you have done, you can show that you've read thoroughly the job description by addressing directly your cover letter to the department that you are applying. For example, it is acceptable that you use Dear Hiring Manager in this case, but if you would like to be more specific, you can use Dear Finance Department, Dear Company ABC Team, or Dear Marketing Department, Dear Head of Design, or whichever department that you would like to apply. So your salutation or your greeting should start off your cover letter. You address it to the hiring manager, to the department, if in case you cannot find the name of the hiring manager. And always remember that it is not necessary to add Mr. or Miss, but if in case you are sure, you can use Mr. or Miss or just use dear because it is safer and it is not questionable. Your opening paragraph is your chance to catch the hiring manager's attention. Thus, you introduce yourself and you enthusiastically tell the employer why you are applying for the job. Your first paragraph is specific to the job listing that you are applying for. You include why you are excited about the job in the company and how the job lines up with your career goals. Avoid including keywords from the job posting and matching your skills with the employer's requirements in this specific paragraph. Your second paragraph, you should talk about your most relevant experience. You talk about your qualifications and your skills that makes you the perfect candidate for that specific job position. And then in one or two paragraphs, you should make connections between your previous accomplishments and your readiness for this new role. Think of this paragraph as a way to pitch yourself as the ideal match for the role. Employers have already read your resume, so you avoid repeating those points you included in your resume in your cover letter. And then finally, the closing paragraph would be the main goal of this is to thank the employer for their time and consideration for reading your application letter slash cover letter. Sum up your qualifications for the role and you express your interest in continuing to the next stage in the hiring process. For the closing and your signature, you should use a friendly yet formal complimentary closing followed by your first and your last name. Closings might include sincerely, regards, best, respectfully, thank you, or thank you for your consideration. Avoid closings like cheers, warm regards, thanks a ton, yours truly, because these are too casual. These are too affectionate. If you are writing your cover letter, always remember that this is a professional document and it is not a friendly letter. When writing your cover letter, you just use fonts that are simple and professional. Choose basic and clear fonts like Arial, Calibri, Verdana, or something similar. Your cover letter should be single spaced. You include a space after each section, such as the contact information, the salutation, the opening paragraph, your middle paragraph, your closing paragraph, and your complementary closing. There is no need to indent your paragraphs as we follow a block format in writing the letter. Keep your cover letter to a single page. You can add an extra paragraph if necessary, but always keep in mind to keep it short and simple. For the margins, always make sure that you have 1 inch at the top, at the bottom, and on the sides. The file format should be in PDF or document format. You follow the format of saving first name, last name, cover letter to make it convenient for the person who is downloading it. So you can follow these steps to quickly create a cover letter. I have outlined the steps for you and you may check this out. Here are some job application tips. When applying for a job, make sure that your letter includes information that the hiring manager needs. Your letter should emphasize your skills and your abilities if in case, then it is best to include these skills. But if in case you believe that your skills like cooking, dancing, singing are no longer needed for the job position that you are applying for, then you should eliminate all of those. Keep in mind that your main skills and main experiences should be the highlight of your letter. Stay concise. Although it may be tempting to include a lot of information about yourself because you would like to pitch yourself as the best candidate for the position, you should keep it simple. course, your hiring manager have received a lot of documents already, and if in case you would be submitting a multiple page document, it would be difficult for them to browse through the pages just to read everything about you. Proofread your letter. It is important that you do these steps because it is necessary. Proofread your letter. It is completely necessary to do this step. You have to make sure that you do not have any grammatical errors or spellings because it can create a negative impression about you. Remember that attention to detail speaks a lot about you. And finally, review the job listing keywords. Most of the postings will include certain skills and abilities that the hiring manager is looking for and the supervisor wants the applicants to possess. So you can always make sure that you include these skills in your application letters so that the person who reviews it will find you to be a good fit for that specific role.